get our we're making steps in the right direction.
I am not.
Good. All right. Welcome, everyone. We'll read the public notice and then we'll begin calling the applications. Mr. Sarah?
Notice is hereby given that the zoning board of appeals of the town of Islip will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, September 21, 2021, on the following applications at the times listed or as soon thereafter as they may be reached. At such time, all interested parties will be given opportunity to be heard. Application number 571-21, Rosemary Gross, Dawn Gross, and Jamie Gross, to renew permit for two-family use only.
Man with the crutches, you can stay there if you wish.
Residence A District, west side of Norma Avenue, 325 feet north of Rockaway Street, West Islip.
There's a Trump sign on every other one.
Hi.
Good evening. So I'm sure you heard the instructions. Name and address for the record, please.
Okay, I am Dawn Rubin, actually, which has changed with the town. That's how we were addressed on the letter.
Speak up and into the microphone.
I'm Dawn Rubin, 232 Norma Avenue, West Islip.
Thank you.
I'm Jamie Gross, 232 Norma Avenue, West Islip.
All right. So, two-family use based on age, right?
Yes,
And
our
who
our
is it?
mother,
Your mother?
Yes.
Who's in, well, I won't say her age because we're on for the internet.
73.
You can't do that. Oh, my goodness. All right. Anyone in the audience wish to be heard? Ms. Pissarro, everything else is in order on this? Anyone else want to be heard on this application? Anything from planning? Shocking. All right, thank you. Do I, Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application for a period of 3 years.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? Application granted. We'll see you in 3 years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Wasn't worth getting up with the crutches for, right? She did just fine.
Application number 572-21, Alexander and Georgina Rubana, to renew permit for two-family use only. Residence AA District, 278 Custer, south side of Pace Drive, 481 feet southwest of South Country Road, West Islip.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Jessica Urbano. I live at 84 Pace Drive South.
I'm David Urbano. I live at 84 Pace Drive South.
Welcome. Okay, so based on age, right?
Yes.
Who is?
Alex and Georgina are my parents. They're in their 70s.
And they're both residing at the
They both
premises?
reside in the house.
Okay. Mr. Sarah? Thank you. Ms. Ryan? All right, no comment. We're not the media, it's okay. All right, Mr. Sullivan, a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the application
Is there a
for
second?
a period of 3 years.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Have a
Thank
great
you.
night. Next application?
Application number 508-21, Santos and Danya Cruz, to renew permit for two-family use only. Residence B District, north side of Nick Water Street. Is anybody here on that application? Santos and Danya?
Second call?
Application number 573-21, Manuel Estrada, permission to leave roofed over entrance and two egress windows having front yard of 38.9 feet instead of required 50 feet, to leave cellar entrance having side yard of 24 feet instead of required 25 feet, and to establish two-family use only pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-419.1. Residence AAA District, south side of Linda Lane, 1,041 feet west of Wheeler Road, Central Islip.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services with offices at 1040 Terry Road.
All right, we're all ears.
Okay, so we are here to establish a two-family use. It's based on health. The owner of the property had his son move in to help take care of him. We're also here for the cellar entrance, which maintains a side yard of 24 feet instead of the required 25. And then the last two items on the agenda are for a front portico and 2 egress windows, both requiring a front yard setback. There is a prior ZBA decision for this property. It's 012-97, which granted a front yard setback of 40 feet instead of the 50 feet required when the house was built. And
You
both
couldn't
of,
be satisfied with that, huh?
yes. And both of these items are just under that at 38.9.
Ms. Ryan, you wish to be heard?
There's plenty of precedent for a lot of houses in the area having front yard setbacks and side yard setbacks. There's one that's front yard of 35, a side yard of 23.95, so no objections.
Any questions from the board? Anyone in the audience wish to be heard on this application? I believe Mr. Nicolia, we're back to you.
Motion to grant the application for a period of 3 years.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Application granted. Thank you.
Application number 574-21, Deborah Esther Delgado Escobar and Santos Delgado. Permission to establish two-family use only pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-419.1. Residence B District, northwest corner of Smith Street, Audwin Drive, Central Islip.
Good evening again. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York. We are here to establish a two-family use. It's based on medical. We did provide a doctor's note, and it's for one of the owners, Deborah. It's for her mom.
All right. Ms. Ryan?
No comments.
And any questions from the board? Anyone in the audience wish to be heard on this application? No one wishing to be heard, Mr. Wexler.
I make a motion to grant for a period of 3 years.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Application granted. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Have a
Ms.
good
Trella.
night.
Application number 575-21, Kim Martinez. Permission to leave pool patio having side yard of 4.5 feet instead of required 6 feet. Residence A District, east side of Queen Anne Place, 157.51 feet south of Breton Road, Hop.
Hello.
Welcome. Name and address for the record.
Sure. Kim Martinez, 41 Queen Anne Street, Hop Hog, New York, 11788.
Okay, anything you want to tell us? You, best presentation of the night. Ms. Ryan, anything to be said?
No objections.
All right, anyone, any questions from the board? Anyone in the audience wish to be heard on this application? There being no one, Mr. Sullivan, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the application for a period of 3 years.
In favor?
Aye.
Application
Thank
granted.
you.
Have a
One of
great
the
night.
best applications I've heard.
The
since I've
best,
been
right?
here.
Everybody should take her model and adopt.
Application number 576-21, Roderick and Sharice Parisi. Permission to leave shed having side yard of 3.8 feet and rear yard of 3 feet instead of required 4 feet each. Residence A District, north side of Tracy Lane, 101.16 feet north of Country Village Lane, East Islip.
Welcome. Name and address for the record.
Thank you. Roderick Parisi, 29 Tracy Lane, East Islip.
Wonderful. And with you?
Sharice Parisi, 29 Tracy Lane, East Islip.
Anything you want to tell us about your application?
So I have the shed that's,
After hearing that the one before you was the best of the night?
no, I'm good.
There you go. Ms. Ryan, anything to be said?
No objections.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the board? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on this application? There being no one, Mr. Sullivan, back to you for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the application.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, application granted. Thank you. Second best
Thank you very
presentation. You this close to blowing it. Next application,
Application
please.
number 577-21, Lynn Alba. Permission to leave pool patio having side yard of 0.5 feet instead of required 6 feet. Residence Dudley District, south side of Oceanside Street, 100 feet west of Greenlawn Avenue, Islip Terrace.
Good
Hi.
evening, Lynn Alba, 94 Oceanside Street, Islip Terrace, New York, 11752. I think it's
Thank
pretty
you.
self-explanatory. Nothing to say.
You really? I don't know. This one you might want to say something. Ms. Ryan?
No objections.
All right, are there any questions from the board?
I would hesitate.
No questions from the board. Is anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on this application? There being nobody, Mr. Nicoli, I think we're back to you, right?
Motion to grant the application.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None?
Thank
Very
you
good.
kindly.
great
Have a good
night.
evening.
You too.
Application number 578-21, Dorothy and Vincent Scarmack Jr. Permission to leave driveway having rear yard of 2.3 feet and patio having rear yard of 1.9 feet instead of required 4 feet each. Residence B District, southwest corner of Hemlock Lane and Garden Place, Station.
Welcome. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Vincent Scarmack Jr., 60 Hemlock Lane.
Dorothy Scarmack, 60 Hemlock Lane, Bayshore.
Okay, anything you want to tell us about your application?
No, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Ryan? All right, any questions from the board? Anyone in the audience wish to be heard on this application? There being no one, Mr. Wexler, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we grant the application.
There's a second?
Thank you.
Not yet. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now you can sit back.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Application number 579-21, Stephen and Christine Chirillo. Permission to leave gravel driveway expansion on side property line not having required setback of 4 feet and shed having rear yard of 1.3 feet and side yard of 1.8 feet instead of required 2 feet each. Residence A District, south side of Renee Drive, 226.18 feet west of Bernice Drive, Bayport.
Welcome. Name and address for the record, please.
Christine Cirillo, 340 Renee Drive.
And with you?
Steve Cirillo, 340 Renee Drive, Bayport.
Welcome. Anything you'd like us to know about your application?
No.
Ms. Ryan? Anyone questions from the board? Does anyone in the audience wish to be heard on this application? There being no one, Mr. Sullivan, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to grant the application.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Application granted. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Application number 580.
You all see a pattern developing here, yes? Take it to heart.
Application number 580-21, Sebastian Lenkowitz and Jacqueline Wren. Permission to install in-ground pool leaving rear yard of 10 feet instead of required 14 feet. Residence A District, east side of Campbell Lane, 501.5 feet north of Doris Place, East Islip.
Welcome.
Hello, good evening.
Name and address for the record.
Sebastian Lankowitz, 63 Campbell Lane, East Islip. And my wife's home on the couch watching Netflix, so.
She's not watching you on YouTube?
Nope,
I think she is. She just didn't want you to get nervous.
she sees me in it.
Anything you'd like this to tell us about your application?
No, thank you.
Ms. Ryan?
There's precedent for a rear yard of 7 feet, so it's all.
All right. Any questions from the board? Being no questions from the board, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on this application? There being no one, Mr. Nicole, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to grant the application.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None? Application granted. Have a
Thank
great
you, have a
night.
good evening.
Application number 581-21, Patrick and Deanna Scudiero. Permission to leave second-story addition, 12 by 20.5, and roofed-over patio having side yard of 9.1 feet instead of required 14 feet each, and gravel area on side property line not having required setback of 4 feet. Residence B District, south side of Elaine Drive, 600 feet west of Johnson Avenue, Sayville.
Name and address for the record, please, sir.
Patrick Scudero, 12 Lane Drive, Sayville.
And who's this gentleman with you?
He's the expediter.
I know that. I was just looking to get his name on the
You
record.
need a quicker expediter.
You need,
An
go ahead.
expediter.
Good evening. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Richard Tripkowski, 173 North Main Street, Sayville, New York, agent for the applicant. It's so good to see you all in person again.
Good to see you as well, Mr. Trukowski. So tell us about the application. You're a little short on the side yard, right?
Yes,
Is there any precedent for that in the area?
basically, I believe it was probably a 10-foot property sight line because the addition does not intrude into the side yard any further than where the garage was. It's simply
No,
an
but,
addition above it.
right, but there's impacts by going up.
And there are no windows to the side.
There you go,
So
perfect,
there's,
okay.
okay. And the patio overhang over the back, same thing, in line with the house. It only extends 8 foot past the back of the house. And the gravel does allow rain through it, so it's permeable. So
And how
wouldn't really
close
have
is
any
that?
negative impacts on the neighborhood.
Yeah, how close is that to the side property? If you know, if you don't, you know.
I think it's close to the property line,
We
probably
have
6
photos.
inches.
Okay,
or so.
great. Ms. Ryan?
There's precedent up to a side yard of 6.6, so no objections.
All right, any questions from the board? There being no questions from the board, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on this application? There being none, Mr. Wexler, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to grant the application.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? None? Application granted. Have a great night, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Have a
you
great
very
night.
much.
Application number 582-21, Kenneth and Lisa Fleischel, permission to leave pool patio on rear property line, not having required setback of 6 feet, to leave driveway having side yard of 2 feet, brick walk having side yard of 1.5 feet, pond having side yard of 1 foot, and gravel area on side property line, all not having the required setback of 4 feet each. Residence B District, 278 Cluster, east side of Annandale Road, 230.86 feet north of Glen Summer Road, Hopewell.
Welcome. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Ken Fishel, 65 Annandale Road, Holbrook, New York, 11741.
Thank you.
Lisa Fischel, 65 Annandale Road, Holbrook, New York, 11741.
Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to tell us about?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, Ms. Ryan?
I just want to know if there's a small typo in the call meeting.
Yeah.
It's supposed to say brick walk, not brick wall.
Makes it even easier.
I was gonna say that improves the application.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
I was looking where the brick
I know,
wall,
right?
where's the brick wall?
And then the pool patios backs up against the sump that's behind that.
So there's no issue. Okay, great. Any questions from the board? There being no questions from the board, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on this application? There being no one, Mr. Sullivan, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Vice Chairman, I will make an application to, make a motion to grant the application.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Application granted. Have a great night.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy the evening.
You too. Ms. Pissarro?
I think the month is something.
Application number 583-21, Eric Charles and Armin Alcindor. Permission to leave one-story addition, 20.8 by 25.2, having second front yard of 9.8 feet instead of required 15 feet. Residence B District, southeast corner of Ferndale Boulevard and Cinnamon Street, Central Islip.
So first of all, it's Alcindor, right?
I'm Eric. My name is Eric.
Oh, you're Eric Charles.
Yes.
Oh, okay, but the other name on this application, it's pronounced Alcindor, right?
Alcindor, yes.
Not Alcindor. Where did you get that?
Me?
Very good. So, sir, is there anything you'd like to tell us? First name and address for the record.
1431 Ferndale Boulevard, Central Islip, New York, 11722.
Fabulous. Is there anything you'd like to tell us about your application?
We bought the house like 17 years ago, and we never knew we have issue with the garage. And suddenly, as a supervisor, an officer was passing by and saw a door, and I had to apply to get a permit. So when I get there, that's when they said even the garage is not. They don't see the garage in the home. 17 years I've been here.
So your testimony is that it's been the same for 17 years, right?
Yeah, it's the same for the
You have
17.
It's not your fault.
Say it again?
And it's not your fault.
Some of the guy did.
I have something to do with it anyway, because when I bought, I should check.
You know,
That was
that's
the
very,
best answer you could have said.
man, that's very admirable. Thank you, sir.
Let's be honest, my lawyer and I should have double
Let's
checked.
not criticize lawyers here.
I
I
mean,
think everybody sitting up here is a lawyer. So.
yeah, so I think I have something to do with it.
All right, well, you're doing fine. Ms. Ryan, any comment?
No objections. Taking into consideration where the edge of pavement is, it's maybe about 20 feet from the street, and it's not against the neighbors, so no objections.
And I'm looking at some aerial photos that show that it's been this way since 1978. So it's not just you.
I wasn't even, maybe I was 3 years old.
Don't be saying you're not born. I'd have to, I'd be a little bitter.
Yeah.
All right, any questions from the board? No.
Not the
Questions
board.
from them? None? Anyone in the audience wish to be heard on this application? There being no one, who are we up to? Mr. Nicoli, I believe.
Motion to grant the application.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? None? Congratulations, application granted.
Thank you so much.
All right, we got the second call on Santos and Dania Cruz. Is anyone here on that application? Once, twice, fair warning. All right, our next applications are scheduled to be heard at 6:30. It is only 6:23, so we're going to take a 7-minute recess. We'll be back promptly at 6:30, and we will address your applications immediately thereafter. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chairman's going too fast.
Yeah, really. For a change. Let me ask you a question. Put on your 7:30.
Oh, yeah. Engaged to a lease. It's her
All right, thank you, everyone.
You're gonna have to have another guy come in and do that, if they deny it. If they grant it, then it's going. Then it's just a matter of what to do. So you're gonna have, you have to wait till that guy does it, get his decision, ask for time to have your own guy.
How do I know her?
I don't know.
All right.
I don't know.
She's nice.
I don't know.
know her.
Next application, please.
We're going to go out of order by just one application to application number 585-21, Scott and Michelle Black. Permission to leave in-ground pool having side yard of 9.1 feet instead of required 10 feet. Pool patio having side yard of 3.5 feet on rear property line instead of required 6 feet each. And roofed over area on rear property line not having required setback of 4 feet. Residence B District, 278 cluster, west side of Live Oak Drive, 280 feet northeast of Singing Wood Drive, Holbrook.
All right,
Mr. Vice Chairman, before we begin, I will need to recuse myself from this application.
very good. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Counselor, your name and address for the record, please.
Stephen Politi, 320 Colton Avenue, Suite 1000, Central Islip, 11722. And I'm appearing for Mr. Black. Good evening, everyone.
And with you?
This is my client, Scott Black.
Okay, thank you.
Now, you know there's no criminal defendant in this case.
I do know that.
Okay. just
Well,
wanted to make
although your application may be criminal, we'll have to determine. Go ahead, sir. If you have anything you'd like us to consider, please feel free.
I just want the board to know that unfortunately, my client relied on the person who put in the fence. It seems as though they didn't consult with the survey. So when he got a variance back in February, he complied with the terms of that variance from February. But it turns out that what we're seeking, as was put on the record earlier, is an amendment to that variance in light of the way the patio was put in, the pool was put in. He does have a letter that I think the board's in possession of from his neighbor. His neighbor has no problem with the, I think, 1.5 feet that's encroaching on his property.
So we cannot condone or even grant you relief that encroaches on the neighbor's property, okay? We can only give it up to the property.
Okay.
All right.
So let me get
So
some.
let me, one other thing. I just want to be clear. So I get, 9.1 instead of 10, you went off the fence instead of the property line. The other variance, though, is 3.5 feet instead, and on real property line instead of required 6 feet. So that's some significant relief. So if you could address that for us, that would be
Can I just have one moment?
Yeah, of course. Okay. All right.
So I saw it, seeing it. He knows. I just put over all this right here. But all I got to do is like.
So some good news for you, you're not, I think you just misspoke. You're not actually encroaching on the neighbor. You're just going closer to the.
Correct.
Okay, good. That's better. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What would you like me to address? Which point?
Your side yards, 3.5 feet and on the rear property line instead of required 6 feet each. So that wasn't just measuring off the fence.
So my understanding is the side was 6 feet, and then it was, he was given a variance for 1.5 feet.
You were given a variance of
For 4 feet.
1.5. That's correct. And that was by decision of this board just in February of this year, right?
Yeah, it was 4.5, and it turns out it's 3. It was 4. Turns out it's 3.5 at the moment.
So.
So we're talking about a half
So
a
we
foot.
can't be too generous to you, huh?
Said the parade of terribles here.
All right. Anything else?
If there's anything else you'd like me to address.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks. Ms. Ryan?
There's precedent for side yards of 3 feet. There's a rear yard of 0.2, so no objections.
Okay. Any questions from the board on this application? None? Anyone in the audience wish to be heard on this application? And Mr. Politi, we acknowledge you have a letter here from Lisa and Jeffrey Bollinger, which I believe is what you referred to, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wexler?
Do I have to do this one?
No.
No, I'm not kidding. I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Second.
All in
Thank you.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed? Application granted. Thank you very much. Have a
Thank you,
great
sir.
night.
Good seeing you.
Thank you.
All right, so now we'll revert back. The next application is Clarice Barada. Ms.
Application
Pissarro?
number 584-21, Clarice Barada, permission to leave one-story addition 11 by 15 irregular, having side yard of 4.7 feet instead of required 14 feet. Residence B District, south side of Lombardi Boulevard, 1,275 feet east of Ontario Drive, Bay Shore.
Welcome, name and address for the record, please. Oh, there's three of you.
1437 Lombardi Boulevard, Bay Shore, 11706.
Natasha, did you catch that? Okay, thank you. Ma'am?
I'm Clarice Barada, 1437. Good for you.
Same address, right? Okay, and the gentleman behind you? Is he with you? Sir? Sir,
I'm sorry.
are you with them?
Yes, I was told.
Or you want to just be heard on the application?
No, I'm with them. I'm for the
Okay.
application.
Okay, great. Your name and address for the record, please.
Dennis Cook, 435 Route 109, West Babylon, New York.
All right, thank you very much. So what would you like to tell us about the application? Anyone?
Well, actually, I would only like to tell you, if I need to, well, my parents bought the house in 2018. With the at closing, there was an understanding that they held back $13,000 from the guy who bought the house and flipped it, okay? Now, the lawyers set up that, I don't know what the amount of time was, but that the $13,000 would be released when we got the C of O. Well, now, it's 2021, we still haven't got the C of O. My father passed away from COVID-related things back a year and a half ago. Now my mother needs to sell the house, and we still don't have a C of O.
Right.
So, you know.
Okay, I understand. So let me ask you something. How did this condition come to exist, or if you know?
Well, it came to exist because my parents bought the house in 2008. They flipped the house.
All right, wait.
That's all I know.
Hang on. So it was there when your parents bought it?
Was I there?
No, this condition was there.
Yes, we did nothing.
Perfect. All right, thank you. I understand that. Mr. Cook, you want to be heard?
Yes, so that the existing was condition, the condition was existing, it was an addition to the back. It's in line with the existing side yard of the house. It's actually 0.1 feet further away from the side yard than the existing house itself, which stands at 4.8 feet. And the person who sold it to them wasn't even aware of the addition until he filed for a plumbing permit in the basement, and then it came about from that.
All right, thank you. Ms. Ryan, you wish to be heard?
This actually is very in character of the neighborhood. There's a lot of side yards for 4.9, 4.8, 4.6, and there's another one actually for 4.3.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, any questions from the board?
I just have a question. I understand that there's maybe the nature and character of the neighborhood, but at what point, since it encroaches so much existing, at what point do we say enough? You can't continue. I mean, if it's a 10 feet of encroachment, that's one thing. If it's 20 feet, that's another. It looks like there's about 30 feet of existing encroachment, and they added another 10, 12 feet to it. In other words, you have a bad condition and you make it bad or worse. At what point, as a board, do we say it's got to stop?
Mr. Wexler, I couldn't agree with you more. I just don't think that this is the application to throw down on, only because if you take a look at the aerial, I think the addition is adjacent to another structure that's far too close to the property line on the other side. So I agree with you. I just don't think this is perhaps the right test case.
It was an observation.
It's a perfect observation. All right, anyone in the audience wish to be heard on this application? There being none, Mr. Sullivan, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the application.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? Application granted. Have a great night, folks.
Thank you very much.
Application number 586-21, Edward and Jeanette Benora. Permission to install in-ground pool 10.5 feet ahead of front line of dwelling instead of required 4 feet behind front line. Residence B District, east side of Wendover Road, 109.74 feet west of Candy Avenue, Sable.
All right, welcome, folks. Name and address
Good
for the
evening, Mr.
record,
Chair.
please.
Ed and Jeanette Benora, 16 Wendover Road, Sable.
Wonderful. You related to John Benora, the
You
lawyer?
know my uncle.
Really? Yes, very nice. All right, anything you'd like to tell us about your application?
I think it's straightforward, trying to install a pool on a irregular shaped piece of property. Setback is not per code, so we're asking for permission to still install it.
Okay. Ms. Ryan, enlighten us, please.
Is there any reason why it's not in the back of the house?
If you notice on the survey, the power line runs the back property. Okay, I'm not comfortable putting a pool underneath the power lines. Furthermore, from the back corner of the property where the utility pole is an underground conduit that provides power to the house.
And
back property.
it's a corner lot and it has on a curvilinear road.
That's a problem. Great for curb appeal.
Do we have any precedent for pools in the second front yard?
Oh,
Not
okay.
in this way, because it's technically the front yard, it's not the second front yard. It's all just one large front yard.
Right.
One thing to note, which
What's
you
the
might not
size
be
of the-
interested, is that it is 37 feet from the street. We do have a rather extensive area of leeway, easement. Okay.
What's the length of your pool, proposed pool?
What is the length? It's about 16 by 35.
16 by?
35.
Any questions? Ms. Ryan, anything else? I'm sorry.
I guess just if they were to be granted, have something that mentions that it's a regular lot, I think that's the one thing that, like,
Well, that would be the only reason that we would consider granting it, I suspect. Any other questions from the board? There being none, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on this application? Mr. Wexler, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? Have a great night.
Mr. Chair, well, thank you.
thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Next application, Ms. Passaro?
Application number 587-21, William Gartland and Melissa Forgus Gartland. Permission to erect one-story and two-story additions, leaving side yard of 12.6 feet instead of required 14 feet, and floor area ratio of 28.5% instead of permitted 25%, and to leave driveway having side yard of 3 feet instead of required 4 feet. Residence A District, north side of Wensley Lane, 435.9 feet west of Keswick Drive, East Islip.
Sir, name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Thomas Bloor, the architect for the project, 60 Carlton Avenue, Suite 202, Islip Terrace, New York, 11752.
Good evening. Anything you wish to
I can give you a quick
enlighten us
rundown.
about?
What'd you say?
Anything you wish to enlighten us about?
Sure, it's a minor FAR relaxation. I'm looking to add a one-story and second-story addition. The scope of work is basically creating a great room, utility room, as well as expanding the existing master suite on the second floor. The side yard setback, we're requesting 12.6 to the west instead of the required 14. The house is not in line with the property line, so it does taper off, and it's a 13.3 foot setback in the rear. And then lastly is the driveway side yard setback of 3 feet instead of the required 4. The driveway is bordered with Belgian block, which is raised up and does slope away from the neighbor and towards the street.
Oh, very good. Ms. Ryan, anything you wish to tell us?
There is precedent up to a side yard of 8.6, so no objections.
All right, any questions from the board? No questions from the board. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on this application? There being no one in the audience who wishes to be heard, Mr. Sullivan, I think we're back to you.
Mr. Vice Chairman, I'll make a motion to grant the application.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Application granted. Thank you, Mr. Bloor. On to your next
Application
application.
number 588-21, Scott and Lauren Casaba. Permission to erect second-story additions, 22.23 by 40.27, leaving front yard of 37.8 feet instead of required 40 feet. Residence A District, east side of Maltz Avenue, 781.73 feet south of West 4th Street, West Islip.
Welcome back, Mr. Bloor. Name and address for the record, please.
Thomas Bloor, the architect for the project, 60 Carlton Avenue, Suite 202, Islip Terrace, New York, 11752.
Okay, I'll caution you to be educated by the prior applications earlier this evening. Anything to be said? Very good. Ms. Ryan? All right, thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to be heard on this application? There being no one, Mr. Wexler, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Vice Chairman, I'll make a motion to grant the application.
Emphasis on vice. Is there a
Yes.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Application granted. Thank you, Mr. LaFleur. Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
Have a great evening.
Next application, please.
Application number 589-21, Anthony and Amy Fury. Permission to erect one-story addition 4 by 18.5, leaving side yard of 21.5 feet instead of required 25 feet, and screened porch 11.1 by 19.2 with second-story deck above, leaving side yard of 13.75 feet instead of required 25 feet, resulting in total side yards of 20.05 feet instead of required 60 feet. Residence AAA District, west side of South Montgomery Avenue, 1100.8 feet south of Montauk Highway, Bay Shore.
Welcome, Mr. Dunn.
Good
Any address
evening.
for the record, please?
My name is Michael Dunn, D-U-N-N, from 1981 Union Boulevard, Bay Shore, New York, 11706.
How are you tonight?
Going good.
All right. Tell us what you wish to tell us.
So the
If you
Furies
need
are,
to tell us anything.
a few things. The Furies are a growing family. They're looking to expand their small house there. It's a.
Is that the sixth consideration in 278,
Yes,
267A?
it's deep, it's deep if you look in the fine print.
The growing family.
Uh,
Yeah, you haven't seen that one?
That and he owns a lot of antique cars.
All right.
Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
So they are asking for a small addition in the rear and another screened-in porch behind the sunroom. Both are keeping in line with the house. It is a double A, it's triple A now, but it used to be double A zone, so that area was upzoned. They are asking for that screened porch with a balcony above. They wanted to stress that there is plenty of landscaping there as a privacy issue. And the front of that one-story sunroom kind of blocks it a little bit with the gable roof as well.
All right. Any question? I'm sorry, Ms. Ryan.
Unfortunately, there's not a lot of precedent for this. There's one story with a side yard of 10.7 and a second story addition for 19.43. I have no problem with the screened-in deck. It's just I'm not sure how having like a second story deck right there would affect anything, but.
I do have letters of support from both neighbors, the one with the balcony side and the one on the north
Thank you.
side.
The carport, I guess there's a CO for that.
Yes, that's original and has been part of the house forever. That does make the total side yard setback seem like a big ask, but the house itself is 39 feet.
Yeah, I saw that. Where is this in Bay Shore?
This is on west side of South Montgomery Avenue, 1,100 feet south of Montgomery.
Can we enlarge those any, or is that, nope, the other way? That's making it smaller. Keep going, keep going. I'm trying to see what type of boat they have in the backyard.
We do have a new one in the back.
Any questions from the board? Ms. Ryan, anything else? I'm sorry if I cut you off. Okay, anyone in the audience wish to be heard on this application? It's your pleasure. Okay, Mr. Wexler, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very
Application granted.
much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Next application, I'm going to defer to Mr. Wexler, who will chair this hearing.
Thank you.
Application number 590-21, Anne Marie Romano, trustee, and Toby Lewis Romano, junior trustee. Permission to erect two-story dwelling, leaving rear yard of 20 feet instead of required 25 feet, to install above-ground pool, leaving front yard of 45 feet instead of required 60 feet, and to install sports court, leaving front and second front yards of 5 feet instead of required 15 feet each. Residence BAA District, northeast corner of Clipper Roadway and Central Roadway, Cornell Estates.
Good evening.
Glenn Graham with Graham Associates, 1981 Union Boulevard, Bay Shore, New York, representing the Romanos.
Good evening, Mr. Graham.
Good evening.
Our vice chairman, for some unknown reason, has requested that I chair this meeting, so
Sounds good.
maybe.
I know of no one with more knowledge of Fire Island, Mr. Wexler.
I think Mr. Graham may have.
Well, okay, no one on the board.
Why don't you tell us about your application, and why don't you take it line by line? It seems like a lot, but that doesn't always mean it is a lot. So go ahead, please.
Sure. Well, first of all, based on some feedback from the neighbors, we're going to withdraw the sports court from the application.
Okay, then I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we amend the application to eliminate that from the call.
I had the opportunity.
Wait, one second. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so let's just, starting from what word to what word, so there's no mistake down the road. And to install sports court, leaving front and second front yards of 5 feet instead of required 15 feet each, correct?
Yes.
That's the start and stop of it. Okay. That out of the way? Go ahead, please.
So that leaves 2 variances.
Okay.
Just a little bit of history. This property is located right up against the Ocean Beach softball fields, right by the school. It's first block in Cornell. There's an old house on it right now that's has some history. You know, it's been there since 1903. The neighbors believe Marilyn Monroe may have slept there, and the Kennedys. The house is
She's
outdated.
accused of having slept in a lot of places.
Yes, but there is some historical interest in the home.
Like
One
George
neighbor
Washington.
wanted to salvage part of the house. So that being said, my client would like to develop the property with a new home, a swimming pool, and an accessory structure. The pool is one of the 2 variances we're here for tonight. We're seeking a 45-foot front yard relaxation instead of the required 60. About 6 months ago, I was in front of this board for the Fittipelli pool, which is within 475 feet of this lot, and that was granted by the board.
And what was the variance that?
That one was at 32 feet.
Instead of 60?
Yes, and
Can you flesh it out? I mean, what was the reason that we granted almost a 50% relaxation?
you granted it for many different reasons. One of them
Any of them good
had to do with
reasons?
other precedent from the Nelson pool, the Archer pool. And I also presented that night this map, which shows the Fittipelli pool of 32 feet. Right next door is the Miller pool at 26.5 feet, the Mallet pool at 31 feet, the Moss pool at 34 feet, House Neck at 31 feet, Cunningham at 28. I can keep going a little bit.
No, I think I remember every one of those.
So we feel the significant precedent for the pool. That would then leave our second request for a variance of a
So I don't mean to interrupt you, I'm sorry.
Sure.
So the greatest relaxation was probably 30.1?
Well, 32 was granted by this board, and that was application 170-21.
32.
Yes.
Was
And we're
that
seeking
Mallet?
45.
Pardon me?
32 was granted, and we're seeking 45.
Right. All right. Okay. That, I think you got us on that one. Go ahead.
The second request is for a rear yard setback of 20 instead of 25, and that's for the house. What's notable here is the back of the house is the softball field. There was precedent from the Bergman application, which I did in 2009, that was granted relief at, I believe, 20.6. There's also many variances granted for front yard relief at down to 19 feet. I chose to push the house a little bit further back than go for a front yard variance because it's the softball field is the only people we're encroaching on. We also, I've been doing this for 20 years, and you know everybody that builds on Fire Island wants every square inch of their property. They will. You said last week 39 is the new 35 FAR. The FAR of this house is 25.6%. I also maintained a 17-foot buffer to the north to stay away from our neighbors. We could have gone as close as 10 feet. We're not asking for any roof decks. We're significantly under the FAR of 30% that's allowed. So I feel the relaxation up against the rear ball field is minor.
Let me ask you a question, just hearkening back to the pool. I travel between Ocean Bay Park and Cornell all the time, and I've noticed everybody is elevating the pools.
Yes,
I guess that's FEMA regulations.
correct.
The precedent that you gave us, or precedents, were those elevated?
Yes.
They're all way up high?
Yeah, the Nelson Pool, the Arca Pool, even the Fittipaldi Pool is about 4 or 5 feet up.
That's the
Yes.
new thing now. Everybody wants a pool, right? In there.
Yeah, this house, because of the location, is not going to be that high up off the existing grade because the grade is high. There's quite a nice topography to this property, which we plan on keeping. We also plan on keeping as many trees and vegetation as possible.
Anything else you'd like to tell us?
What's notable, some of the neighbors may speak about the noise from a pool. You know, we are up against the ball field that has camp every day on Fire Island. When camp's not in session, the softball games, and as one of the neighbors submitted a letter showing the helicopters landing on the ball field. So I don't think noise is an issue here. During the school year, the school itself is extremely busy with the parking of not only the teachers, the buses, just contractors instead of driving into Ocean Beach,
And all
parking
14
on Midway.
And all 14 kids who go to school there.
Yeah, but it's one of the busier parts of town.
Understood.
So I'm
Okay.
sure there's some neighbors who want to speak. I'll be happy to address any of their concerns.
Preliminarily, any board member, well, either Mr. Sullivan or Mr. Messina, any
No, thank you.
questions? Okay, anybody from the public would like to be heard on this? Please. Why don't you step up? Give us your name and address, please.
Yes. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Ann Stevenson, and I live at 81 Clipper, which is the property directly to the north. So I submitted a letter, and thank you for allowing me to do that. And I just wanted to read sort of a version of that letter.
All right, let me just ask you, is it a quick letter?
Yes.
Is it a short letter?
I'll make it quick.
Thank you.
14 pages, right? You cut it down from
Yeah.
20?
24
Quick question.
pages.
You live at 81 Clipper year
I-
round?
I live there full-time from April to November.
So that's not your, is that your permanent, is that your,
It's my residence from April to November. It's not winterized, so we shut it down. And then I live in Manhattan from the rest of the time. So I already told you my name. I'll skip past that. I live at 81 Clipper, directly north of
Okay.
91 Clipper.
Here, just one other thing, please. When everybody reads, they really read quickly. I
I
have
was-
a reason why, but I'm not going to say. Okay. It's suffice to say. So just read very slowly because every word has to be taken down by our stenographer.
Absolutely. I just wanted to be sensitive to your time, but I would gladly read slowly. We bought our home at the end of 2014 and have spent every possible moment there each year from April to November. We have never rented out our house, and we believe we have been good neighbors within the small and unique community of Cornell Estates. I'm a writer and devote my time to researching Fire Island's vibrant history, of which 91 has no shortage, as noted, from Bobby Kennedy landing by helicopter on the ball field and visiting the house during a 1964 Senate campaign, to stories of Marilyn Monroe spending a night or two, to the sheer bones of this special property and home constructed in 1903. Our new neighbors purchased their home early 2020, so it was a bit jarring for our first communication with them to be indirectly through a town of Islip public summons. I would have loved to have heard from them directly and to learn of their plans, as we are in fact the only neighbor that shares a common property line with them. Be that as it may, we have known for some time that this property would sell and that our landscape would change. We welcome our new neighbors, and we hope they share the same love and passion for their neighbors, the community, and the very fragile ecosystem of Fire Island. We are grateful that their new home will be modestly scaled and for the 17-foot setback from our property, especially as we spend all season on our deck. I also reside on Fire Island full-time from April to November and work from home, so any sound barriers are welcome. I'll take a moment just briefly to respond to sound. I think that I can speak to ball field sound more than anybody because these two properties are directly against it. And the sound of the ball field is not a raucous sound. It's lovely sounds of children playing in a brief game. So I would separate the kind of pool and what can be like a.
So the sound of children playing in a pool is not as lovely as the sound of children playing on a ball field?
I just think in my experience of Fire Island, a pool has the capacity to produce a different kind of party sound or party vibe.
And so does a ball field, right?
And it's not that's not my experience of it. It's really not. I'm on
But
work
the point
calls.
is you can
well-
speculate about either.
Well, that's what I'm sharing. I stay on Zoom work calls while ball games are happening.
Well, my condolences. for the Zoom work.
My main concerns are for that of the land. Our property is extremely wet, and we have only seen this increase with each year that we have lived there. When we bought our home, we actually brought in tons of earth, not out, to try to regrade and redirect the vast amount of water that pools on our property. To that end, I can't imagine there being a positive
It's
impact.
going a little too fast.
Okay. To removing extremely old and mature trees, which is what I had understood of this proposal, and to flattening the lot, which is also what I understand to be this proposal. I have great concerns over the secondary dune, an 8-foot berm, being demolished along Midway. This dune provides protection and barriers and may be the only reason why our home was spared during Hurricane Sandy. Proper drainage and protections are of critical concern for our barrier island and the island on the whole, and for the safety of our individual homes and properties. Removing a secondary dune is in fact what further complicates our flooding issues and our management of a rising water table.
Let me just stop you on that while it's fresh in my mind. And Mr. Graham can address this, maybe just to make a mental note. Doesn't the Fire Island National Seashore have to opine on this or no? Regarding the dune?
This is,
No, my question is, do they opine on this? Okay.
This dune could have been scraped from when they made the ball field flat.
Right. Okay, I understand. Maybe I'll ask Deidre, just addressing the dune issue, because I don't have the answer sitting here. Does building, who would inspect that? The engineering would inspect that, and they would prepare a report. And if they found it, and again, I don't know, I'm just trying to answer your query.
Yeah.
My query. If engineering found it to be detrimental to the property, would they flag that? What happens?
They review all residential buildings that come in, any construction in general that has to do in residential, like any kind of thing that's involved with that.
Okay.
They'll review it, they'll go through it, they'll make sure drainage isn't just discussed and everything's kind of looked at. But along with what Mr. Graham said, this is the center of the
Right.
island, so I actually would also be the person that reviews it for wetlands reviews.
Okay.
And I don't think that this would be flagged by the New York State DEC or the CPAL line or
Okay.
anything like that. Would be,
But at the end of the day, engineering will review this application, and they're neutral. They don't represent anybody but the interests of the town. As such, if they find it to be potentially deleterious, they will flag it.
Okay.
Okay.
And it's not in the COLA meeting for our review.
Right.
Just one more page here. We are concerned about the land that runs along our property and desperately hope that it does not get paved. I understand that it's a garden proposal, but a garden could be a paved garden proposal. And that maintains the drainage that is so vital to the safety of our home. To reiterate, leveling land, removing trees, or impeding any natural water drainage is of dire and critical concern and most certainly impacts us personally. 81 and 91 Clipper are the two properties closest to the ball field and to the extremely frequent emergency helicopter landings. I wish I could provide a video of one in action, but it is quite intense, both from the winds created and from the extreme sound. The trees and vegetation of 91 Clipper definitely help to absorb these sound levels. Our hope is that any new plans work in harmony with these emergency services. Given our concerns for keeping land intact, we'd like to understand their plans for running their electric. Will this be dug along their property? I can talk to the architect about this, but I understand this is an opportunity to speak. Or dug at a diagonal through our land, as the plan suggests. Again, keeping the root system intact with our rising water levels is of importance to us. Speaking directly to the pool location variance, it seems appropriate to maintain the required 60-foot in order to provide adequate sound management for the community. I greatly respect your processes here. It's the first time I'm learning of it. It's fascinating to watch. I heard precedent cited. I would just say, and I don't know technically, what rights people have or how it works, but I just think Fire Island, every street is so different, and the way each situation is with the pool on the lot is unique to that property. So I say this in response to what I know of this specific property. Speaking to the sports court variance, it is our understanding that it's being removed, which it was. We would like to have an understanding of the alternate use, as this is exactly the secondary dune area previously referenced. We need to understand, and this is what we spoke about, if engineering and land grading permits have been secured, if a tree clearing permit has been granted, has proper consultation occurred with the Ocean Beach Fire Department and the Suffolk County Police Department and the Aviation Division concerning the proposed construction and the potential impact on emergency helicopter landings. This feels imperative, as there's unfortunately no going backwards. This is an immensely beloved and celebrated property throughout Fire Island. My friends from Kismet to Water Island talk about Driftwood and the beautiful property. I am personally dismayed as to why a development plan cannot occur and has not occurred that is deeply thoughtful to Fire Island's water and flooding problems and shows support for the preserving the trees, dunes, and vegetation. Certainly, a beautiful home can be erected that works in harmony with the nature and with the vast number of mature and healthy trees. Losing that extensive root system and protection, frankly, has the community terrified. And I know many of my neighbors have told me that they share that concern and have submitted letters to you. My house, without a doubt, will be impacted, and this feels very avoidable. Millions of dollars have gone into Fire Island's dune restoration initiatives. Why wouldn't we heed that same caution and prioritize these same concerns and protection for Fire Island's interior? As residents sharing this unique and wonderful island, we feel so fortunate to be surrounded by such a singular natural habitat with its countless species of birds, native vegetation, and short walks from ocean to bay, of which Clipper has one of the most beautiful. We look forward to many more years of nurturing this fragile and precious environment that we call home, hopefully in harmony with our neighbors. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to these concerns. And I think another neighbor would like to speak as well.
Certainly. If I just may address just a few things, and it may address your neighbor's concern, and will be brief. Just so you know, and you've expressed concerns, as a board, we look at the physical dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
What the OB Fire Department and the Suffolk County Police Department do vis-a-vis a helicopter, and that's not within our wheelhouse. So we have no authority, no jurisdiction. The pool setback, as you heard, we have granted numerous down to 30. This is 45. I don't think if we deny an application, which we do on a semi-regular basis, somebody has a right to appeal that. They go to the Supreme Court, or tri-level court, and we wouldn't be sustained, honestly, if we've granted 30, how do we not grant 45? So that's the good news. It's not seeking 30. And additionally, the electrical lines that you speak of, whether diagonal or horizontal, we have no control. That's all a separate town department who they use their engineers. The preservation of trees and grading of the land, we don't control that. That's also, am I right? That's a separate department. And I'm trying to pass the buck. We just have they don't trust us with a whole lot. We have very limited.
Yeah.
And the good news is the FAR, the foot area ratio, is 25.6. That's unheardably small. We see 50, 60. Mr. Graham has tried, I think, for 70. No, I don't know that for sure. But be that as it may, let me just say that I understand your concerns, and I've spent my life. My parents had a home, I think, 62 years ago at Fire Island. we understand your concerns, but this is a minor application. It's not seeking a lot, and I'd have no problem jumping up and down and saying it did. So it is very within what we normally grant. I
Okay.
just want you to know that.
Yeah, I think I'll just leave it to my neighbor to speak to some of the points you just
Of
raised as
course.
well.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to be heard? Please. Thank you.
Good evening.
Would you give us your name and address, please?
My name is Teresa Macri. My address is 100 Clipper Roadway. We are year-round residents, my husband and I, who's sitting over there. Macri, M-A-C-R-I. I'm not good with microphones, I'm sorry.
Now, let me just ask you, you heard what I told the
I did.
previous, and additionally, do you have anything additional to
I
add?
do, I have some questions I'm going to say, rather than additional things. I'm assuming that you've read the letter that I had submitted, and I'm not going to read it because it is
Thank you.
72 pages long. But the concerns that I have that were directly answered by you just now was there were other divisions that need to address this land as well. So there's potentially an engineering division, there's potentially a tree division, and I don't know if those have been approved. What I had heard was that demolition of the land had actually been approved. I don't know whether that's true or not. Based upon the drawings that I saw, and I appreciate Mr. Graham's his statement of saying that they're going to try to preserve as many trees as they can, and they're going to preserve the integrity of the land. But if you look at the drawings that they submitted, that is in direct contradiction to what those drawings show. If you look on there, it says the average elevation of the land is 3.5 feet. That berm is not 3.5 feet high. I had submitted a picture in with my letter where you can see it's roughly around 7 or 8 feet high.
Can I just interrupt you one second, and you can have all the time you need?
Sure.
Just so you know, again, demolition and the trees, that's not
I understand.
that's not us. So
I-
you
I
can tell us,
understand.
we
The-
have no control over that.
Completely understood. My question, though, is how could you submit plot plans without having those approvals of those other departments before approaching this board?
They're two different issues. We can grant relaxation, and
Mhm.
engineering could say, yes,
Mhm.
fine, but you need to do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G.
So is the process, they get the variance for the location of things first and then seek engineering approval, or does engineering approval have to happen prior?
No, it normally first comes to see if it's doable. Then they have to go deal with engineering, which could be its own nightmare.
Okay, so engineering, just for clarity, and I think I should ask this question of Mr. Graham, has engineering?
Why don't you ask us, though?
Okay,
please?
has engineering been approved?
It's not time for that.
It's not time.
Okay. Okay, understood.
It's like you wouldn't close on the house until you got the mortgage.
Understood. And I'm unfamiliar with the
No,
process, so
that's
thank
why
you. So
we
thank you.
have this question answer period.
The second thing is I greatly appreciate that sports court is removed. If you have a visual.
So do we.
Yes, we wouldn't have granted that anyway, so.
Excellent. But if you see, my house, our house is directly, may I just?
Sure. So you're across the street.
I am, and my bedroom window overlooks what was supposed to be the sports court. So
Okay.
that would
It's
not make me happy.
already getting better for you.
Thank you. The concern I have is that I asked for a proposed site plan, and what I received was a big gaping hole there. And I understand that he's not asking for a variance or anything, but the question that I'm asking of this board in particular is there any way, my concern is that they're going to pave over that and put a movable basketball hoop, and in essence, end up with a sports court without needing to seek approval for that. How can you help me, or how can somebody help me prevent that from happening so I don't have to listen to a basketball over my bedroom window?
Well, that's if they have the appropriate land
Mhm.
and they are not exceeding their lot coverage.
Mhm.
Yeah, and they observe the same setback. In other words,
Mhm.
they can't encroach. Only we can grant the encroachment.
So if they choose to pave it, for argument's sake, do they have to ask for approval to pave that section?
If they're going to encroach on the setback. I don't know what the setback is. What is it, 15?
15 feet,
If
right.
they wish to go closer to 15 feet, they do. If
Mhm.
they don't need a variance, they don't need us. And can they build a basketball court? Yes.
So is there any recommendation that you can make as this board? And I understand, if you can, you're a Fire Islander, Mary, I know you visit Fire Island or are on there a lot there as well.
We don't have the ability to make recommendations. It's their land, as long as they follow.
No, I guess I was asking for a recommendation for me. Is there anything that I could do?
Yeah, we can't make recommendations. In other words, we can't tell you what to do. We can answer your questions, but we can't tell you what to do.
Mhm.
I'm just telling you, if people do not need a variance
Mhm.
and what they're doing is legal,
Right.
they can
Then
do it.
I'm out of luck.
I'm sorry?
I'm out of luck is what
Well,
you're
not
saying.
out of luck. It's,
So,
as long as they follow the law, we
Right.
can't increase, the town can't increase the burden on them.
so a couple of other things. You mentioned the pool that's been talked about a lot. You talked about the 45 feet, and that is, quite extensive. The one thing I don't know is, does location matter when you're granting things like that? So let's talk about Fittipalli, which was the one that you brought up. Fittipalli happens to be.
What are you saying?
Fittipalli was one of the ones on our block.
Oh, okay.
Okay. There was a pool, and I think you said it was at 35 feet, if I heard correctly.
Deidre said it.
So that one is in the middle of a block. It is behind a fence. It is a similarly sized property, but this is the entrance to a community. And so this is the first thing that people will see. And it is right adjacent to a ball field and directly across the street from a basketball court. My fear is that people are going to come down that block and say, yay, there's a community pool, because it's out there. I mean, it's in the front. Does location matter? As community residents, it is scary for us to think that this is going to be perceived as an extension of the Ocean Beach ball field
I'm
and
trying to
sports.
follow your thought process. You are concerned that people, strangers, may view that as a public pool?
I was concerned that they were going to perceive that sports court as an extension of the basketball court that is directly across.
Again, that's far afield from what we do. It's speculative.
Of
And
course it's
additionally,
speculative,
I'm
yeah.
sure they're going to have a gate and a fence. They're not spending millions of dollars and just going to have a pool
Right.
that the public can, hey, I think I'll take a swim.
to be fenced.
Yeah.
Right.
So honestly, I understand your concerns,
Mhm.
but I don't know if it's a probability
Right.
that strangers are going to start jumping into the pool.
I'll tell you right now that strangers walk onto that property daily.
Okay.
And this is really,
But that's outside our.
I understand. The two other things I want to address, one is the FAR. I had a conversation earlier, and I am unfamiliar with the FAR regulations. And so please forgive me, and I'm hoping that you can explain this to me.
Very simply, FAR.
No, I know what FAR is. It's with respect to decking. So I understand that first floor decking does not count towards FAR.
No, it does.
And my understanding is that height is 60 inches. There is
Hang on one second,
4,000,
wait,
there's
I can-
4,500 square
I
feet
know,
of
but I can,
decking.
hang on just one second. You have to let us.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Clearly I'm anxious.
There's no variance application for decking. So they're meeting the town's code. They're not asking to exceed it. So it's not before us, and it's something you really shouldn't be concerned about, because once again, they're following the town code.
So
We can't
Susie Goldhirsch.
Wait. We can't impose additional requirements on them, like we couldn't on you. Oh, you know what? We decided now your house needs to be 30 feet further from the road, but I'm complying with the law. Well, we
Understood.
just changed it. We don't have that authority. It's a good thing. So the decking is not before us.
So my question then, Susie Goldhirsch had submitted a letter saying that they wanted, from the Fire Island Association, wanted the opportunity to review the way that the FAR was being calculated. From her perspective, she didn't have enough time for the FIA to question it. And so before this board, I would like to suggest or request that a postponement of this variance request be delayed until an assessment of that FAR is appropriately conducted.
May I be heard?
Yeah.
But the
There's no-
point is there should be, is my
Except-
understanding, according to what Susie Goldhirsch had said.
Except we get it from the building department. They do the calculations. With all due respect to Ms. Goldhirsch and the
Mhm.
Fire Island Association, if they wanted to challenge any determination made by the building department,
Mhm.
you do so tonight at the hearing, I suppose, or you can take your own challenge to the building inspector's calculation and bring it before this board. But right now, there's nothing to do with FAR before this board. There's nothing for us to entertain.
So
Also,
how-
one other issue,
Mm-hmm.
just so you know, we cannot base our decisions on third parties,
Mhm.
whether it be the Fire Island Association, which I'm aware of, or private people. We have to rely on governmental agencies.
Of course.
And again, as you've heard from both members, it's not before us because they don't need a variance.
Mhm.
So regardless of what the Fire Island Association was going to say, we couldn't rely on a third party.
Mhm.
And it's like if, once again, your home met the code, but some third party says, no, I wanted to do better than the code, we'd say, excuse me.
Right.
But it's
Understood.
also not before us, so
Right.
they meet the code. It's like giving you a speeding ticket on the LIE when you're doing 50. And
So-
the police officer says, well, I lowered it from 55 to 50. You can't, we don't have the authority.
So how do I question, independent of Susie Goldhirsch and the FIA, how do I question the calculation of the FAR? And I understand that it's
You
not
can
before
go
this.
to, the building department and you can request to see the file
Mhm.
and you can do whatever you're entitled to. You can review it.
And you can appeal the determination of the building inspector if you wish, and that comes before us then. But it's not before us tonight.
Understood. So go to the building department and
Yeah,
ask for
and
a
you can do your
review?
own independent review. You can have anybody look at it.
Mhm.
There's a lot that goes into it.
Mhm.
And the town engineers, this is what they do in the building.
Mhm.
And Deidre does this day in, day out. They do thousands a year.
Right,
Sometimes I don't know how they keep their sanity, but
right.
that's what they do. But you're welcome to do it.
Okay, excellent.
And you can go to the zoning, which is behind Town Hall,
Okay. And what?
pointing to it. You go to Mary and say, Mary, show me the file.
Well, I did already.
Oh, okay,
There you go. Thank you.
okay.
Okay, so again, the final thing was that there was no jurisdiction to talk about here, obviously. And again, I'm just asking for who to speak to with regards to the trees and the land.
That
So
would be
who?
Building, engineering.
That would be building
Yep.
and engineering? Is that a
Yeah,
separate department
Whoever
or?
gives you, yeah, whoever is the right department. I don't know who's the tree experts,
Okay,
the conifer experts.
so engineering for
arboreal
land and tree, building department for building department and FAR for zoning, building department and zoning for the FAR.
Sullivan's.
So those are the ones that I have to discuss with.
Yep.
That's all right.
Okay. Well, thank you. That has been incredibly helpful.
Okay.
And just as one final comment, one of the things that is unfortunately most disturbing is that we don't have communications with the owners nor with the architect. And so I understand Mr. Graham is behind me, but I would love it if we would have direct communications rather than having to go through a board for the future. So that's the last thing that I'd like to say.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else wish to be heard on this application? Okay. Mr. Graham, would you like to be heard on a brief rebuttal?
I'm a bit offended by Ms. Macri. I spoke to her twice on the phone. I've communicated her through email. So my door is open. I was kind enough to share the entire plans with her, the entire community. Ms. Pissarro was copied on all those emails.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Anything else?
Anything else?
We are going to fully comply with all town code requirements. This is our first step in building this home. We will be heading to engineering and following all the proper building department applications as necessary to finish this project. It is a very modest design for this lot, and I'm asking that the board grant the hearing tonight. If this was to go into reserve, what some of the neighbors may not know, you take up to 62 days to make a decision. That would then have us building this home through July and August if the board was to grant the variances. If the variances are not granted, more than likely, we're going to push the house closer to the neighbor. We're allowed to go as close as 10 feet. We're staying 17 feet away. We're leaving over 1,000 square feet of FAR that we could put a roof deck on it. There's a lot of possibilities for this lot, and this application is quite modest.
Okay.
So I appreciate the time to speak.
Thank you. Any other questions for the board? I'll take a motion, Mr. Vice Chairman Messina, please.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to reserve decision.
Mr. Sullivan? Reserve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, the application will be reserved. We have 62 days to render a decision. Thank you very much.
Application number 591-21, Scott and Christy Maskin. Permission to reconstruct detached garage 25.5 by 29, not having 20 feet behind the front line of the dwelling, and having rear yard of 3.1 feet instead of required 10 feet, resulting in floor area ratio of 27.04% instead of permitted 25%. Residence A District, north side of Grassmere Avenue, 586.79 feet west of Miami Road, Oakdale.
Thank you. Mr. Graham, name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Glenn Graham with Graham Associates, 1981 Union Boulevard, Bay Shore, New York.
All right,
Representing Mr. Scott Maskin and his family who's with me tonight. I have letters of support from...
I was just going to say, we have one. I just want to note that we have one from the Passamantes, people who reside at 31 Grassmere Avenue.
All right, I think I have a couple more.
Please, sure. Office is right behind you.
We're here tonight so Scott and his family can rebuild a detached garage that has suffered many floodings and it's beyond its useful life. It's quite deteriorated, and we'd like to slightly enlarge it. We are keeping the front yard setback consistent with the existing garage and actually decreasing the rear yard setback against the Grand Canal. We're slightly making it wider, which contributes a little bit to the FAR of 27%. And I believe the board consistently grants up to 30% on the FAR. So the two setbacks that we're seeking exist as they are today.
So the existing garage or the new garage is going to be exactly where the old garage was?
Yes.
No bigger?
It's going to be bigger, it's going to be wider, but the setbacks we're seeking are for the front yard, which is going to be kept exactly the same as it is today.
Does it encroach any more than the old garage?
No.
That's the point.
The old garage is 3.1 feet?
Well, the old garage actually goes further back, so we're less in the rear yard.
How about the side yard? Because it seems to be close.
The side yard we conform with to 10 feet.
Ms. Ryan? All right. Mr. Sullivan, do you have any questions?
I do not. I will make a motion though, if you'd like.
Well, let me ask if anyone in the public, in the audience would like to be heard first. And there being none, Mr. Sullivan, please, take it away.
Mr. Vice Chairman, I move to grant the application.
Is there a second?
And I will second Member Sullivan's motion.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Graham.
Have a good night.
Good luck.
Mr. Sarah, have we any other business to entertain this evening? Okay, thank you. Okay. Somebody's here on the Santos and Cruz application. Santos and, all right. Sir, are you here on? So who's here? In the back? Could you step forward, please? Okay.
Because it's the second time. You know, I know what you'll do with this. Dan, this is the second time that the applicant didn't
So,
show up.
ma'am,
They
if you could
objected
step up to
there.
the podium, we're going to call the application. We're going to ask you to put your name and address on the record then, okay? So, Ms. Becerra, can you please call the application?
Application number 508-21, Santos and Danya Cruz to renew permit for two-family, family use only, Residence B District, north side of McWhorter Street, 175.99 feet east of Jefferson Avenue, Brentwood.
All right, is there anyone here for the applicant? Let the record reflect that there is no one here for the applicant. Ma'am, your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Carolina Mora. I live at 4 McWhorter Street, Brentwood, New York.
Okay, ma'am.
Mora.
Ms. Mora, because this is the second time this has appeared on our calendar, and this is the second time the applicant has failed to show up, I'm going to make a motion that we dismiss this application. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, they have to start the whole process all over again. If they want to come back, then you'll be renoticed, okay?
Okay, cool. Thank you
But as
very
of right now, the application is dismissed.
Okay, that's great news.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Pissarro, have we any other business before the board? Thank you. All right. So application number 430.
Hold on. I can let go for you, show you.
All right, application 436-21, George Wilkinson, 42 Sextant Walk, Robbins Rest, to leave an accessory building 15.8 feet by 16.3 feet, resulting in an FAR 41.1%, instead of permitted 30%, accessory structures less than 250 square feet, not counted in GFA. I'll entertain a motion to grant, Mr. Wexler.
Motion.
And I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Application granted. Next application is number 463-21. Brian Blaskoff and Dina T. Staria Blaskoff, 853 Peconic Street, Ronkonkoma. Again, in accordance with proposed written decision dated September 21st, 2021, I'll entertain a motion to grant. Mr. Sullivan?
Motion to grant.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Application granted. Ms. Pissarro, is there any other business to come before the board?
10 accessory apartments to renew.
I'll make a motion to approve all 10 accessory apartments. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed? Granted. Is there any other business, Ms. Pissarro?
Did you
I'll
put
make
that-
a motion then to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much. Thank you to our wonderful IT department.
Good. You were surprised.
I was surprised. Right.